Chapter 6. The Shape of What Comes Next. Maren woke to rain. Not heavy rain. Not the kind that drums or demands attention. This rain arrived quietly, as if it were asking permission. She lay on her side beneath the overhang of a low stone wall, watching thin lines of water slip from leaf to leaf, before finally letting go and falling to the ground. The sound was soft, rhythmic, almost conversational. Each drop seemed to land with intention, not urgency. Rain like this did not interrupt the island. It joined it. For a while, Maren did nothing but listen. She noticed how the rain did not flatten the air the way storms sometimes did at sea. Instead, it clarified it. The sense of tide hollow sharpened gently. Stone, wet, wood, salt, the faint mineral sweetness that rose when dry ground accepted water again. She pushed herself up slowly, careful not to rush her body awake. The previous day lingered in her muscles, not as soreness, but as memory. The threshold with Aaron, the shimmering horizon, the feeling of standing in a place where change was possible without being required. She exhaled and let the breath move all the way through her. Rain meant something different here. She was learning. At home, rain had always been a calculation, a warning, a thing to prepare for. Nets tightened, boats secured, eyes turned skyward. Here, rain was simply another way the island listened to itself. Maren stood and followed the curved path toward the village center. The rain thinned as she walked, fading into mist before stopping altogether, as if it had completed whatever task it came to perform. People emerged from doorways unhurried, unfazed by damp hair or wet sleeves. A child ran past her, laughing as she splashed deliberately through a shallow puddle, her bare feet sending ripples outward. Maren smiled. At the center of the village, she saw Sori standing near the Hall of Held Stories. They were not inside, but just outside the entrance, gaze lifted toward the sky, as if tracking the retreating clouds. "You felt the rain," Sori said without turning. Maren nodded. It felt like punctuation. Sori smiled. A pause between thoughts. They turned toward her, fully now. "Today, you will not be guided." Maren felt a small flutter of nerves. At all. At all. Sori confirmed. "You have listened to the island. You have listened to others. Today, you listen to yourself in motion." Maren absorbed this. "What if I listen wrong?" she asked. Sori tilted their head. "You won't. You may misunderstand. You may hesitate. But listening itself cannot be done incorrectly." They stepped aside, clearing the path in front of her. "Go," Sori said. "Return when you feel the pull." Maren hesitated only a moment, then nodded and turned away. She walked without destination. At first, she stayed within Tide Hollow, letting her feet choose familiar paths. She passed Lyra's workshop, where the door stood open and the scent of metal and salt drifted out. Lyra glanced up, met Maren's eyes, and gave a small nod without calling her inside. "Not yet." Kellen stood farther down near the docks, repairing a loose plank. He looked up as Maren passed, lifted 2 fingers in greeting, then returned to his work. No questions, no expectations. Maren appreciated that. She followed a path that led away from the water and toward the higher ground beyond the village. The silver-leafed trees grew closer together here, their branches weaving a canopy that filtered the light into shifting patterns. Drops of rain clung to the leaves, trembling but not falling. As she walked, her thoughts began to surface. Not loud ones, not demanding ones, questions that had been waiting patiently. What would happen when she left Tide Hollow? Would listening feel the same elsewhere? Was this something she was meant to carry forward? Or something meant only for this place? She did not try to answer. She kept walking. The path narrowed until it was little more than a suggestion, then widened again into a gentle slope that led down toward a stretch of land she had not yet explored. The air felt different here, thicker, charged in a subtle way that made her skin prickle. She slowed. The hum returned. That low, familiar presence beneath things. Not calling, not pulling, just present. Maren closed her eyes and stood still. She felt the ground beneath her feet, the balance of her weight, the quiet steadiness of her breath. She let her awareness spread outward without attaching it to anything specific. When she opened her eyes again, she saw it. A path, not carved, not marked, but unmistakable. The grass leaned slightly inward, as if pressed by many careful footsteps. The air above it shimmered faintly, the way it had near the crossing with Aaron, though softer this time, more tentative. Maren felt a flicker of excitement. "So, this is how it works," she murmured. She stepped onto the path. It firmed beneath her feet. The path led downward, winding gently through low hills and clusters of stone. As Maren walked, the island around her began to change in subtle ways. The trees grew shorter, the ground rockier. The sea, though still present in the distance, faded from her immediate awareness. Eventually, the path opened into a wide valley. At its center lay a structure unlike anything she had seen on Tide Hollow. It was not a tower. It was not a hall. It was a circle. Tall stone pillars rose from the ground, arranged in a perfect ring. Each pillar was carved with symbols similar to those in the Hall of Held stories, but these were deeper, more angular, as if meant to be read not by the eyes alone, but by the body. At the center of the circle sat a single stone bench, and on it, someone was already seated. A man. He appeared older than Kellen, younger than Sori. His hair was streaked with gray, pulled back loosely at the nape of his neck. His posture was relaxed, but alert, like someone accustomed to waiting without impatience. He looked up as Maren approached. "You found it," he said. Maren stopped a few steps away. "I think it found me." The man smiled. "That's usually the better way." He stood and inclined his head slightly. "I'm Tovan." "Maren?" Tovan said, as if the name confirmed something. "The sea's been busy with you." Maren laughed softly. "So, I've been told." Tovan gestured toward the bench. "Sit. This place doesn't like conversations held standing." Maren obeyed, settling onto the cool stone. Tovan sat beside her, leaving a respectful distance between them. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence felt intentional. "This is the circle of turning," Tovan said at last. "People come here when they're in between." "In between what?" Maren asked. "Before and after," he replied. "Leaving and staying. Becoming and unbecoming." "Maren, let that settle." "What happens here?" she asked. Tovan shrugged. "Mostly, people realize they've already made a choice." Maren frowned slightly. "I don't feel like I've chosen anything." Tovan studied her carefully. "That's because your choice isn't about direction. It's about shape." She waited. "Some people move forward by narrowing," Tovan continued. "They choose one path and close the others. Some move forward by expanding. They learn how to hold more without losing themselves. Maren felt a quiet recognition ripple through her. And listening? She asked. Tovin smiled. Listening is how you learn which kind you are. They sat together. As the light shifted across the valley, the pillars cast long shadows that moved slowly, like the hands of a clock measuring something other than time. I came here once, Tovin said, years ago. I wanted the island to tell me what to do. And did it? Maren asked. He shook his head. No. It showed me what I was already doing. That was harder. Maren thought of her floating village, of how she had listened to the sea her whole life, without realizing she was doing anything unusual, of how leaving had not felt like abandonment, but like continuation. What did you do after? She asked. I learned how to carry listening into places that didn't know how to receive it, Tovin said. Some places welcomed it, some resisted, but all of them changed. A little. Maren absorbed this quietly. How do you know when it's time to leave? She asked. Tovin glanced at her. When staying becomes a way of hiding. The words landed gently, but firmly. Maren did not answer right away. She wasn't hiding. Was she? She thought of how safe Tide Hollow felt, how held, how understood. She thought of the ease of being among people who listened back. And she thought of her home at sea, of storms, of urgency, of people who might not understand this way of being. She felt no fear at the thought of returning, but she felt reluctance. I don't want to leave yet, she said honestly. Tovin nodded. Then don't. Listening isn't about speed. He stood. Come. There's one more place you should see today. They left the circle and followed a path that curved upward along the valley's edge. The air grew warmer as they climbed, the scent of stone giving way to the faint sweetness of flowering plants Maren did not recognize. They reached a ledge overlooking the sea. Below them, waves rolled in long, even lines, their surfaces catching the light. Farther out, the water darkened, deep and inscrutable. What do you see? Tovin asked. Maren squinted. Movement. Layers. Distance. Tovin nodded. And beyond that? She listened. The hum was there again, faint but present. I see connection, she said slowly, even where things look separate. Tovin smiled. Good. He crouched and traced a symbol into the stone with his fingertip. It resembled a spiral, but with branching lines extending outward. This mark appears all over the island, he said. Most people think it represents listening. It doesn't. What does it represent? Maren asked. Response. She considered that. What's the difference? Listening is receiving, Tovin said. Response is what you allow that receiving to shape. Maren felt something shift inside her. So listening isn't enough, she said. It is, Tovin replied, but it's incomplete on its own. They stood in silence, watching the sea. Eventually, Tovin straightened. You should go back to the village. Lyra will be waiting. How do you know? Maren asked. He smiled. Because she always is. When something needs doing. The workshop smelled stronger today. Metal, oil, wet stone. Lyra stood at the central table, sleeves rolled up, expression focused. She glanced up as Maren entered. There you are, she said. I was starting to worry you'd wander into something that doesn't come back. Maren smiled. I met Tovin. Lyra nodded. That figures. He has a talent for finding people who aren't looking for him. She gestured to the table. I've got something for you. On the table lay a lantern unlike any Maren had seen before. Its frame was made of pale metal, etched with spirals and branching lines. The glass panels were clouded, not broken, as if they had once held something bright that had since dimmed. This came in last night, Lyra said. It belonged to a traveler who stayed for a while. When they left, the lantern stopped working. Maren studied it. What's wrong with it? Lyra shrugged. Nothing mechanical. Maren placed her hands around the lantern. She listened. At first, there was only silence. Then, slowly, a feeling emerged. Hesitation, uncertainty, a kind of quiet grief. This lantern doesn't know where it belongs anymore, Maren said. Lyra's gaze softened. Exactly. What do I do? Maren asked. Respond, Lyra said simply. Maren closed her eyes. She thought of what Tovin had said about response, shaping, listening. She did not try to fix the lantern. She spoke to it, not aloud, not in words. She offered it permission to change. The lantern warmed beneath her hands. A faint glow bloomed inside, not bright, but steady. When Maren opened her eyes, Lyra was smiling. There, Lyra said. That's it, Maren exhaled, surprised by how tired she suddenly felt. Listening, she was learning, took more than attention. It took courage. That evening, the village gathered again by the shore. Food was shared, stories told, laughter drifted into the night. Maren sat between Kellen and Aaron, her shoulders relaxed, her body heavy with honest exhaustion. You're changing, Aaron said quietly. Maren smiled. So are you? Aaron laughed softly. That's fair. As the fire burned low and the stars brightened overhead, Maren felt a quiet clarity settle into her. She did not need to decide everything. She did not need to know where listening would take her. She only needed to remain willing to respond. The sea whispered. The island listened. And Maren, resting in the space between them, felt the shape of what came next begin to form, not as a plan, but as a readiness. She closed her eyes. Tomorrow would come, and she would meet it listening.